Okay, first and foremost is all honor, praises, and glory, which goes to the Father who is the highest. Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. I want to give honors to all the elders of Yasha Allah. Thank you for your steadfast service doing work for the nation. I also want to give a shout out to all the frontliners who are out there on the highways and byways pushing the truth to these right in these spirits' face, to which I say I am less than the least of them. A healthy shalom to you all and to the hopeful elect. This video is going to be a little bit different. While I thoroughly enjoy prophesying against this wicked nation, the destruction of Babylon the Great, the destruction of Esau, and the subduing of the earth and the nations, trampling them underfoot as we raise the kingdom to Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, who the world refers to as Jesus the Christ. I'm going to come a little different this time. So this video is going to be in reference to Elijah the prophet. What tribe did he come from? Was he uh was he one of the northern kingdom tribes? Or was he a Levite? Which I believe it's a possibility that he was definitely that. Now, of course, this video is going to be left open. I will obviously I will take a rebuke, and I will also take um, further lessons from any of the brothers out there who feel that they can firmly address the topic. I will take no video from Christians because I hate to say it, but y'all have been proven reprobates and utter degenerates when it comes to the scriptures. And I don't mean that for the parishioners who are searching for knowledge. You don't know. But the people who deem themselves teachers, I'm talking to them because these guys will read the Bible and tell you that what they just read in the Bible is wrong. Here's an example. They can go to Numbers 13 and read verses 3 through 6 and tell you that Caleb is an Edomite. They can read God's divine law and tell you what God wrote is wrong. You are a reprobate. These people will read Christ's own words, John 17, 1 through 3, where Christ tells you with certitude that the Father is the only true God, and they will teach you that Christ lied, that Christ didn't know what the hell he was talking about. You are a reprobate. You can teach me nothing. You should sit down and take notes. I will teach. And also the small hat community, which will tell you that to be an Israelite or to be a Jew, it is through the wombs of your mom, yet the Bible shows not a single matriarch. How is it a matrilineal heritage when you don't have any matriarchs? So let's start with Sarah. If Sarah is the matriarch and not Abraham, go figure, that would make Rebecca Sarah's daughter. But see, Rebecca is not Sarah's daughter. Okay, Sarah is not Rebecca's mom, Isaac's wife. Isaac's wife did not have Sarah as a mother. So how is this a matrilineal heritage? Dinah, uh, the 12 patriarch sister, Dinah, she wasn't her own tribe. So where do you get this nonsense from? It's patrilineal. It always has been, always will be. So I will not take any rebuke from any of those reprobates. But if any of the brothers out there who do a great job teaching the nation want to chime in, I'll take it. Now, was Elijah, the great prophet of Levite? Elijah was one of the forefathers of the nations whose valiance was supposed to be remembered through the annals of time, just like Abraham, Moses, and many of the others. He was so loyal and zealous for the Most High that he was taken up into heaven by a whirlwind in a chariot of fire, as described in 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 11. So his dedication was to the Most High to stand against the prophets of Baal in his role of turning back Israel to the true worship of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. But at that time, they were not privy to the coming of Christ. All right. So the Bible didn't mention Elijah having a Levitical lineage, nor does it refer to him as a priest. Okay. So his ministry was primarily outside of the temple, confronting like kings and false prophets. So when you go to 1 Kings 17 at 1, it says that Elijah was a Tishbite. Let's read that. And Elijah the Tishbite, who was of the inhabitants of Gilead, said unto Ahab, as the Lord God of Israel liveth, before whom I stand, there shall be not dew nor rain these years, but according to my word. And then when you read in James chapter 5, it tells you that he prayed that it might not rain, and it rained not on the earth by the space of 3 years and 6 months. So when you read that Elijah was a Tishbite, it's usually an indicator that he might be of the land of Tishbe, which is um, in one of the northern kingdom allotments of land. So a lot of the scholars believe that possibly he was a Reubenite, a Gadite, or maybe of the tribe of Manasseh, or possibly one of the larger tribes in the northern kingdom, Ephraim. But it doesn't say it specifically. But this is also proof why you can't just see them being named something like Tishbite and think that he's not an Israelite, he's a Tishbite. That's what Christians do when they see son of Jephanetic, the Kenizzite. Okay? As if there's only one person in the Bible named Kenaz. That's insane. That's insane to think that. I mean, there are several Cushes in the Bible. Are they all Hamites? When it says Cush the Benjamite, does it mean, are you going to say no? He's not from Benjamin. He's from Ham. That's what Christians do. That's my point. So the context doesn't start in the law with them. The context start in their idiot minds. You can teach me nothing. Moving on. So Um, by the time Elijah came to the forefront, the northern kingdom was fully entrenched in idolatry, right? With Baal worship becoming widespread under Ahab. But that's neither here or there as it pertains to what tribe that he comes from, because in all the allotments of land that were in what was known as the land of Jacob at that time, the land flowing with milk and honey, whatever you want to call it, there were Levites in all the allotments of land as they served the children of Israel wherever they were. So let's back that. Let's back the fact that Levites were living in all the lands that the children of Israel were given as an allotment of their inheritance. So this is Numbers chapter 35, starting at verse 2. And it said, Command the Israelites to give from their inheritance, that they will possess cities for the Levites to live in, and pasture lands around the cities. The cities will be for them to live in, and the pasture lands will be for their herds, their flocks, and all of their livestock. Right? And it begins to tell you numerically how that was taking place. So when you go to Joshua chapter 21, you begin to see the fulfillment of this when they were actually when they were in the land. Right? So this is Joshua chapter 21, verse 3. And it says, So by the command of the Lord, the Israelites gave the Levites these cities and their pasture lands out of their own inheritance. Right? So that's the proof that Levites would be in all the various allotments of land as the Lord gave unto the children of Israel. Why? Because you need priests to be of service of all the children of Israel wherever they are in the various allotments of land. And also, you see evidence of this uh, in the Bible. So it's not beyond the realm of conclusion that Elijah could have been of Levite. We already know he's one of the great prophets of the Most High, but other great prophets of the Most High, right, were also priests. So let's look at one. This is Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 1 to prove that point. And it says, these are the words of Jeremiah, son of Hilkiah, one of the priests in Anaoth in the territory of Benjamin, right? So what does this say? That he's in the territory of Benjamin. It doesn't mean that he's a Benjamite. Obviously, he isn't. It says he's the son of Hilkiah. Hilkiah, the his bloodline goes all the way back to Aaron, right? All you got to do is read First Chronicles, but it literally calls him a priest, and he's in the territory of Benjamin. So not only does this prove that certain prophets were also priests, it also proves that there were priests in all the various allotments of land, right? So who's to say that Elijah's foreparents, if they were Levites, who's to say that during the time of the kingdom split and the time by which the Levites retreated to the southern kingdom, Judah and Jerusalem during the time of Jeroboam's apostasy, who's to say that Elijah's parents and the bloodline, in that particular bloodline, didn't stay in their lands? I mean, who's to say they weren't afraid of going to the southern kingdom for fear of not having anywhere to live? You got to understand when you're dealing with Jake, Jake is not the most faithful. Jake always have lacked faith. You know what I'm saying? I'm just bringing out the obvious facts. So, like Jeremiah, like prophet Jeremiah, you also have Ezra. Ezra is one of the great prophets of the Most High God, but he was also a priest. Ezekiel. Ezekiel also was a prophet of God, and he is also a priest. And while some of these priests didn't exactly serve in the temple or perform sacrifice unto the Lord, some of them they just prophesied against the many nations and the heathens, and they didn't have the title of a high priest to perform these various duties within the temple, but they were of the bloodline. Some of them actually did both. So let's continue to examine how these roles lead me to believe that Prophet Elijah happened to be of this priestly stock. All right. So when we go to Prophet Ezra, let's go to Ezra 7. I'm going to start at verse 1. It says, now after these things, in the reign of Artaxerxes, king of Persia, Ezra the son of Sariah, the son of Azariah, the son of Hilkiah, right? The son of Shalom, the son of Zadok, the son of Ahitub, the son of Amariah, the son of Azariah, the son of Marioth, the son of Zariah, the son of Uzzi, the son of Buki, and the son of Abushua, the son of Phinehas, and the son of Eleazar, and the son of Aaron, the chief priest. Clearly shows his priestly lineage, but he is a prophet, just like Jeremiah is a prophet and also a priest. But Ezra, being of this priestly lineage, he served in dual capacities, right? He prophesied against great kingdoms. He went to the Most High on the children of Israel's behalf because they were so wicked, and he was wondering when will the Lord actually, forgive them after being in exile all this time, and why all the other nations continue to magnify themselves and be and seek wealth, but they were just as wicked or even more wicked than the children of Israel. And Prophet Ezra also did priestly duties. Let's go to the Bible. Let's see some of this. Let's back some of this stuff up, and we'll see how it relates to what Prophet Elijah did, right? So when you read Ezra chapter 3, starting in verse 2, it says, Then Jeshua, the son of Josadak, Jeshua being the high priest, of course, and his brethren, the priest, and Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and his brethren arose and built an altar uh, of the God of Israel to offer burnt offerings unto it, as it is written in the law of Moses. So that clearly shows you that they were burning offerings unto the Lord, right? And then it says, though fear had come upon them because of the people of those countries, they set the altar on its basis and they offered burnt offerings unto the Lord, both morning and evening burnt offerings. So obviously, there was no temple in this time. So this was not a permanent altar like the bronze altar that was in the first tabernacle in the wilderness. And it wasn't like the altar that would eventually be constructed within the first temple, right? So this also shows that Prophet Ezra served in dual capacities. They burnt sacrifices unto the Lord, and he also prophesied against great kingdoms. So let's back some of that up. Let's go to Second Esdras chapter 2. It's many places you can go. I'm just kind of building my premise and backing it up with scripture, scriptural references, right? So when you go to Second Esdras, this is just a random one that I'm picking right off the top. Second Esdras chapter 2, let's start at 26. Just something real quick. And it says, As for the servants whom I have given thee, there shall not one of them perish, for I will require them from among thy number. Be not weary, for when the day of the trouble and heaviness cometh, others shall weep and be sorrowful, but thou shalt be merry and have abundance. The heathen shall envy thee, but they shall be able to do nothing against thee, saith the Lord. My hands shall cover thee, so that thy children shall not see hell. Be joyful, O thou mother, with thy children, for I will deliver thee, saith the Lord. Remember thy children that sleep, for I shall bring them out of the sides of the earth and show mercy unto them, for I am merciful, saith the Lord Almighty. That's one of my favorite prophecies from Ezra because it gives hope that in due time the salvation of Lord will come for the children of Israel, and they will be saved from the four corners of the earth and will be forgiven. And finally, the other nations will have to pay for their steadfast wickedness, for the rape, robbery, and murder of the children of Israel. Right? So, again, this also proves that prophets can serve in dual capacity as prophets and priests. Right? So, when you go to Prophet Ezekiel, he was both a prophet and a priest. And while much of his ministry focused on the visions and prophecies from the Most High God, he prophesied about the future temple, but he did not. It does not show that he ever offered sacrifices during the time of his exile, right? So when you go to Ezekiel 1, it says, Now it came to pass in the 13th year, in the fourth month, in the fifth day of the month, as I was among the captives by the rivers of Kabar, that the heavens were open, and I saw visions of God. In the fifth day of the month, which was the fifth year of King Joachim's captivity, the word of the Lord came expressly unto Ezekiel the priest, the son of Buzi, in the land of the Chaldeans by the river Kabar, and the hand of the Lord was there upon him. So that shows that Prophet Ezekiel was also a priest, as it showed his lineage through, being the son of Buzzy. Now, it doesn't expressly show all the patriarchs that Buzzy would descend from, but you're of the idea that since it called him a priest and listed the son that he um, that he comes from, that Buzzy would have to be one of the offsprings of Amariah, Zadok. Um, what are some of the other priests? Amariah, Buki. He must have been under one of these guys' sons, right? So now Prophet Ezekiel himself prophesied against many kingdoms and nations, but he didn't perform any temple services as the Babylonians destroyed the temple with the help of the Edomites, of course. There is actually no record of him performing sacrifices as a priest. And he wasn't a high priest at that. So it's not like he had to perform these particular services. But I only bring up Prophet Ezekiel just to hammer the point that a prophet can also be a priest, right? So let's move on. Let's go to the New Testament. You have John the Baptist. John the Baptist was both a prophet and from a priestly lineage. His father Zechariah was a priest after the course of Abiah, like it says in Luke chapter 1, verse 5, and his mother Elizabeth was also of Aaron's descent. This means that John the Baptist was of a priestly line that went back to Aaron himself. But like I said before, every prophet who was a priest didn't exactly serve in the temple. It didn't mean that they were required to do so as well, because it didn't say that John the Baptist became a high priest, right? And I believe during the time of the New Testament, much of the temple services were reserved for the sons of Zadok, and I believe they assumed the role of the Sadducees during the time of the New Testament. But for John the Baptist, rather serving in the temple, John was called to a different mission to prepare the way for the Messiah, fulfilling Isaiah chapter 40, verse 3, and Malachi verse 3 and 1. We can get that too, just to hammer the point, right? Mm. It says Malachi chapter 3, verse 1. It says, Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way for before me. And the Lord whom you seek shall suddenly come into his temple, even the messenger of the covenant whom ye delight in. Behold, he shall come, saith the Lord. Right? So you can see the fulfillment of this in the New Testament. Obviously, you can see it in the synoptic gospels. Matthew chapter 11. I'll start at verse 7. It says, As John's disciples were leaving, Jesus began to speak to the crowds about John. What did you go out into the wilderness to see? A reed swaying in the wind? Otherwise, what did you go out to see? A man dressed in fine clothes? Those who wear fine clothing are found in king's palaces. What then did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I tell you, but more than a prophet. This is the one about whom it is written, Behold, I will send my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way before you. So that is the fulfillment of Malachi chapter 3, verse 1. And like I've said before, he was a prophet, but he was also a priest. It just so happens that John the Baptist's role as a prophet was greater than his potential role as a temple priest, even as Christ himself testified right here in this chapter. Now, moving to Elijah, the finale. Now, in Elijah's case, the Bible doesn't mention him having a Levitical or an Aaron descent. And his ministry was primarily outside of a temple. Why? Because they were already under rebellion and it fully entrenched in idolatry. So his ministry consisted of confronting kings and false prophets, right? But it also consists of calling Israel to repentance and performing miracles. But one thing that Elijah did, which makes me believe that he was a Levite, is he performed sacrifices, which is a priest's job. So when you go to First Kings chapter 18, let's get it. Let's get the precepts on why this is a plausible conclusion. So this is First Kings chapter 18, starting at 18. And it says, and he answered, I have not troubled Israel. This is during the time where they were worshiping, the Israelites were wicked as hell and they were worshiping Baal. So when you turn to First Kings chapter 18, starting at verse 18, it says, and he answered, I have not troubled Israel, but thou and thy father's house, in that ye have forsaken the commandments of the Lord, and thou hast followed by all them. So this is at the time where they were, worshiping false gods and joining the other nations. Verse 19, it says, now therefore send and gather to me all Israel unto the Mount Carmel, and the prophets of Baal 450, and the prophets of the groves 400, which eat at Jezebel's table. So Ahab sent unto all the children of Israel and gathered the prophets together unto Carmel. And Elisha came unto all the people and said, how long how ye between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And all the people answered him not a word. Then Elijah said unto all the people, I, even I only, remain a prophet of the Lord, who is the highest. Only Elijah's left. But all Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let them therefore give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on the wood, and put no fire under it. And I will dress the other bullock and lay it on the wood and put no fire under. And call ye on the name of your gods, and I will call on the name of Yahweh, and the God that answereth by fire, let him be God. And all the people answered and said, it was well spoken. So all the Israelites and all the other people that were around there, they were with it. They were with the challenge. uh, Elijah challenged those 400 or so prophets to put 1 bullock on an altar. And of course, Elijah would do the same thing, and they would call on their various gods. And whoever answered by way of fire would be deemed the most high, right? Moving on. And Elijah said unto the prophets of Baal, choose you 1 bullock for yourselves, and dress it first, for ye are many, and call on the name of your gods, but put no fire under. And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it, and called on the name of Baal from morning even until noon, saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that would answer. And they leaped upon the altar which was made. And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them and said, cry aloud, for he is a God. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey. Peradventure he sleepeth and must be awakened. Peradventure is perhaps. So he's saying perhaps he might be sleeping, and you got to wake him up. So he's mocking them, right? And they cried out loud. They cried aloud and cut themselves after the manner with their knives and lances till blood gushed out upon them. And that's similar to Northern Kingdom, the Northern Kingdom that was over here in this land. They carried these false rituals right on over to this part of the earth. So it's not beyond the realm of conclusion that they were doing it in this time. So they cried aloud and cut themselves after the manner with their knives and lancets until blood gushed out upon them. And it came to pass when midday passed, and they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that there was neither no voice, nor any to answer, nor any that regardeth. Right? So their false god Baal never showed up for them, didn't rain fire down. Right? Verse 30. And Elijah said unto all the people, come on near unto me. And all the people came near unto him, and he repaired the broken altar of the Lord that was broken down. So you have Elijah, this prophet, rebuilding an altar that was broken down, right? And Elijah took 12 stones according to the number of the tribes of Israel, of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. And as with the stones, he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he made a trench about the altar as great as one as would contain 2 measures of seed. So much like in the same way that prophet Ezra and Joshua the high priest did in chapter 3 of Ezra's writings, Elijah also built a temporary altar for sacrifice, which is what the priest was doing, right? Priest Ezra and Joshua the high priest and the Levites, Elijah's doing the same thing, right? Verse 33. And he put wood in order and cut the bullocks in pieces and laid him on the wood and said, fill 4 barrels with water and pour it on the burnt sacrifice and on the wood. So he's commanding them to get 4 barrels of water and to pour it on the bullock and to pour it on the wooden plank that the bullock is laying on in pieces. And he said, do it a second time. And they did it a second time. And he said, do it a third time. And they did it a third time. So that's 3 times that they filled up how many barrels? 4 barrels of water and poured it on the rebuilt altar, which consisted of those rocks and those trenches and the wood and the meat, the bullock that they cut that's on top of the plank. So it's fully drenched in order to get the sense, right? And the water ran around about the altar, and he filled the trench also with water. So the trench that they digged all around the altar, that too was filled with water, right? And it came to pass that at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that Elijah the prophet came near and said, Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel, let it be known this day that thou art God in Israel, and that I am thy servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Lord, hear me, that this people may know that thou art the Lord God, and that thou hast turned their heart back again. Verse 38. And then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice and the wood and the stones and the dust and licked up the water that was in the trench. So, I say that in saying this, that again, a prophet, just because he's a prophet doesn't mean he can't be a priest. And just because he's a priest doesn't mean he can't be a prophet, right? So I'm going to read 38 again. Then the fire of Yahweh fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice and the wood and the stones, consumed the stones and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces and said, Yahweh, he is God, Yahweh, he is God. And Elijah said unto them, take the prophets of Baal, let not one of them escape. And they took them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook of Kishon and slew them there. So, verse 38 said, a fire from the Lord fell down and consumed the burnt sacrifice. I ask a question. How did fire first light the bronze altar in the tabernacle? I'm gonna ask one more time. How did the bronze altar in the first tabernacle in the wilderness, how did that get fire in it? Right? Did not that fire come from the Most High? So let's get that. This is Leviticus chapter 9, starting at verse 21. And it says, "And the breast and the right shoulder of Aaron, and the breast and the right shoulder Aaron waved for a wave offering before the Lord, as Moses commanded. And Aaron lifted up his hand toward the people and blessed them, and came down from offering of the sin offering and the burnt offering and the peace offering. And Moses and Aaron went into the tabernacle of the congregation and came out and blessed the people. And the glory of the Lord appeared unto all the people. And there came out a fire from before Yahweh and consumed upon the altar, burnt in the burnt offering and the fat, which when all the people saw, they shouted and fell on their faces." So let me read that again. "And there came a fire out from before Yahweh the Lord, and consumed all upon all the altar, everything that was on the altar, all the three offerings, the peace offering, the burnt offering, the sin offering, burnt all that up, and the fat, which when all the people saw, they shouted and fell on their faces." So just as Elijah summoned the consuming fire of the Most High God, this is the same manner that Aaron and Moses did when they first when Aaron first lit fire to the bronze altar in the tabernacle in the wilderness in Leviticus chapter 9. So just as Elijah summoned the consuming fire of the Lord, that is in the same manner that a high priest did it. So not only was he doing sacrifices, building altars, he was also summoning the glory of the Lord from the heaven to bring a consuming fire to offer up a burnt sacrifice, which is a priest job, right? So that's what makes me believe that he is tied to the Levitical tribe, right? So not everyone could do this when you read the scriptures and you go back and forth. Not everyone who was an Israelite could perform a priest job and get away with it. As you see in the very following chapter, in chapter 10, that Aaron's two sons were killed for offering incense, which is the job of a high priest. That's not their job. It tells you in the Apocrypha that out of all the man on the earth, that the Lord chose Aaron to burn incense unto him, right? It wasn't that they burnt the wrong incense. It was because they burnt incense, and that is a job of a high priest, not just the Levitical priest. You have to be a high priest. That is specifically Aaron's job. So even when you read in Exodus where it says, "And Moses lit incense," it also says Moses built the tabernacle. You think Moses was swinging hammers? It says that Moses built all the altars, like the altar of incense and all that, and made incense. Moses was the shot caller. He was the one directing everybody. But it was written as if Moses is the one who did it. Moses did not light incense. That job was allotted unto Aaron. Okay, that's why his two sons got killed. It also says in the time of the kings that King Solomon burnt 1,000 burnt offerings. You think King Solomon was separating legs and fat and washing the inward parts and doing all that's a priest job. So because it's written in that manner, it doesn't mean that he was doing the job of the priest. He is the one who ordered them to sacrifice these sacrifices. Okay, the priest already had their daily jobs. They had daily sacrifices already on top of the sacrifices that they have to do on the feast days, on top of the sacrifices that they got to do on the Sabbath, on top of the sacrifices that they got to do when women give birth, on top of the sacrifices they got to do when people sin. So they always had stuff to sacrifice. Why would they just all of a sudden just go get King Solomon and just sacrifice 1,000 more animals. So you got to have some understanding and being in the spirit to understand this stuff, man. Right? So not everybody could sacrifice unto the Lord and not pay a price for it. Just like King Uzziah, he offered incense unto the Lord, which is a high priest job, and the Lord judged him. So let's get that. So this is Second Chronicles chapter 26, starting at 16. It says, "But when he was strong, his heart was lifted up to his destruction, for he transgressed against the Lord his God. And he went into the temple of the Lord to burn incense upon the altar of incense. And Azariah the priest went in after him, and with him fourscore priests of the Lord that were valiant men. And they withstood Uzziah the king, and said unto him, It appertaineth not unto thee, Uzziah, to burn incense unto the Lord, but to the priests, the sons of Aaron, that are consecrated to burn incense. Go out of the sanctuary, for thou hast trespassed, neither shall it be for thine honor from the Lord thy God." So they were warning Uzziah not to go through with it. Verse 19, King Uzziah. Then Uzziah was wroth and had a censer in his hand to burn incense. So that's what they burn incense in, a censer. And while he was wroth with the priest, the leprosy even rose up in his forehead before the priest and in the house of the Lord from beside the altar incense. And Azariah, the chief priest, and all the priests looked upon him, and behold, he was leprous in his forehead. And they thrust him out from thence. Yeah, himself hasted also to go out, but because the Lord had smitten him. And Uzziah the king was a leper unto the day of his death, and he dwelt in a several house, being a leper, for he was cut off from the house of the Lord, and Jotham his son was over the king's house, judging the people of the land. So King Uzziah got judged when he tried to assume the role of a priest, which was to his detriment because that was not his lot. He's of the tribe of Judah. He's not a priest. Okay. You don't burn incense when you're of the tribe of Judah. You don't offer up sacrifices when you're of the tribe of Judah. It has to be a very special circumstance where the Lord will let somebody who is not a priest sacrifice unto him while leaving unscathed. Right. So, what happened when King Saul burnt incense, right? Along with being a rebel, it was to his detriment in the end of his reign as king, and he ultimately was killed, right? Not only did he burn incense, right, during the time of Samuel, which that's another case which we can go to. He also did not kill off all the Amalekites, and he kept all of their livestock, just rebel, because the Lord said to kill it all. And he was rebellious. You know, he was always going against what the Lord commanded him, and it was to his detriment. But where did the beginning of the end happen? The beginning of the end happened when he burnt that incense. Okay, that's when it all went downhill. It wasn't just uh not killing the Amalekites. So, but thinking as I go to Prophet Samuel, he did a priest job. He did. He did a priest job. Prophet Samuel did sacrifice, and he's not a Levite. Prophet Samuel is an Ephraimite, right? So let's unpack this, right? So let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 9, right? He sacrificed He sacrificed unto the Lord the highest while calling for help against the Philistines, right? So, verse 9 says, Then Samuel took a suckling lamb and offered it as a whole burnt offering to the Lord. He cried out to the Lord on behalf of Israel, and the Lord answered him. Verse 10 And as the Philistines drew near to fight against Israel, Samuel was offering up the burnt offering. But that day the Lord thundered loudly against the Philistines and threw them into such confusion that they fled before Israel. So after that, the Israelites would go after the Philistines, and they prevailed against the Philistines. But like I said before, Samuel's case is a little different because he was a priest, he was a prophet, and a judge. And some believe he was also a Nazarite. I can't confirm that because unless his vow ended when he killed King Agag, he would have had to cut his hair because he touched a dead body. He killed somebody, right? So I don't know about him being a Nazarite, but Samuel's case is different because Samuel's mother Hannah, she prayed for a son, promising that he would be dedicated to the service of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, right? So when Samuel was born, she fulfilled the vow and brought him to Eli, who was the high priest, and he would serve at the feet of high priest Eli, and perform service at the tabernacle in Shiloh. Now, granted, performing services underneath the high priest is still reserved for the Levites. And Samuel is obviously not a Levite. His daddy is of the tribe of Ephraim. Elkanah. Elkanah is an Ephraimite, right? So why? Why is this a special case? Here's my understanding. High priest Eli's sons, Hophni and Phinehas, they were priests, but they were notorious as hell. They were wicked as hell, man. You can read about high priest Eli's sons in 1 Samuel chapter 2. They were wicked as hell. They were performing sacrifices to their own pleasure, taking their portion out, bargaining with people as it pertains to their sacrifices, having sex with the women who would gather at the temple. It was crazy, right? Just wicked as hell, doing their own thing. So Samuel likely performed these priestly duties because the official priesthood under Eli's sons was corrupt and falling apart. So of course, the Most High chose someone to fulfill the priestly and prophetic roles the same way he did for Ezra and a lot of the other prophets. You know what I'm saying? Samuel's righteous service became, somewhat crucial to restoring the Israelites' relationship with the Most High God and providing the spiritual leadership that the people needed at that time. So that I would have to say that case is different because the people who were responsible for doing those duties were wicked as hell, by which the Lord would have them they would be put to death. And not only would they be put to death, high priest Eli would be put to death because he didn't put them in check. So that case is a little different. But to conclude why I believe that Prophet Elijah was a Levite. I hope I haven't been calling him an Edomite or anything, because I know I have sometime I misspeak. I talk out of school, and I don't get a chance to correct it because I put the video up and listen to it days later, and I see I misspoke. I hope I haven't been calling him anything other than a Levite or a prophet. But the biggest indicator that Prophet Elijah was a Levite is that Yahweh Shai said he was a Levite. I'm sorry. Yahweh Shai said he was John the Baptist, who was a Levite, right? So this is Matthew chapter 17, and I'll start at verse 10. It says, the disciples asked him, why then do the teachers of the law say Elijah must come first? Yahweh Shai replied, to be sure, Elijah comes and will restore all things. But I tell you, Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but have done to him everything that they wished. In the same way, the Son of Man is going to suffer at their hands. Then the disciples understood that he was talking to them about John the Baptist. In this passage, Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, the Most High in Christ, or Yahweh Shai, Jesus, the one who they call Jesus, directly identifies John the Baptist as Elijah returning to the earth. as the fulfillment of the prophecy of Elijah's return, a reference to Malachi chapter 4, verses 5 through 6, which foretold that Elijah would return before the great and dreadful day of the Lord. But outside of these clues and hints, and of course, the confirmation from Yahweh Shah, who was also himself a prophet. If I can't believe him, who can I believe? But outside of all these identifiers, I can't with certitude confirm or deny that Prophet Elijah's tribal lineage goes back to the tribe of Levi. I can only confirm that he's an Israelite, but I strongly believe that he was a Levite based on his roles, based on the things that he did that were priest jobs like offering sacrifices, summoning the great fire from heaven to light up the altar. These are high priest jobs, and the fact that, Yahweh Shai confirmed that that John the Baptist is in fact Elijah returned to the earth. Um, so like I said, man, this lesson is a little bit different. I didn't want to bang on Esau or anything like that in this one. And I'm leaving it open for any of the brothers who may want to chime in. They probably have some insightful information to add on. Like I said before, I'm not taking no rebuke from no Christian apologist or no small hat sage. You have nothing to teach me. You're not equipped. Um, but to that, I hope you guys have a great Sabbath, and I want to give all honor, praises, and glory unto the Father who is the highest. Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Shout out to all the brothers, and with that, I'll say Shalom, Israel.